Dan Dingsøyr reporting for Press for Truth, and it is recession time, ladies and gentlemen. And Press for Truth, as well as many others, have been predicting this for a long time now. And while the corporate state media establishment has been telling everyone for the last 8 years that the world economy is recovering, we have been a lot more realistic in our outlook. I mean, after all, massive money printing in 2008 and 2009 didn't fix anything. It just merely kicked the can down the road, and now here we are at the end of the road. Markets are selling off risky assets. Investors are fleeing into safe havens, which ironically seem to be government debt. I suppose that will change once the people take a stand against banker occupation. Or when even the investors realize that governments can't keep taxing their citizens forever. If the next generation has to pay back all of this debt through taxes, they're not going to be able to make any kind of a living for themselves. Without being able to create wealth, the taxes that they pay are not going to mean anything. It will just be paper paying off the debts from older paper. It'll literally be a form of slavery where any productive output is taxed away to pay for the debts of the past generations. But nevertheless, while the world economy begins its descent back into the reality of the situation, that is, Western governments are bankrupt and Western banks are insolvent, well, the Canadian government has now decided that selling nearly half of its gold reserves is somehow a good idea. Apparently, precious metals aren't worthy assets. From 3 tons in late 2015 to a mere 1.7 tons this month, the amount of gold in Canada's portfolio now stands at 0.1%. The rest is just in paper, like foreign currency deposits and bonds. Now, compared to the United States, which holds 8,133 tons of gold, Canada is sinking in the water. Even the United Kingdom has 310 tons. Now, according to economist Ian Lee of the Sprott School of Business at Carleton University, Ottawa has no real reason to keep its gold reserves other than adhering to tradition. Under the old system, gold backed up currencies, Lee explained. The US dollar was tied to gold. 1 ounce was worth 35 US. Then in 1971, for lots of reasons I won't get into, Richard Nixon took the United States off the gold standard. In a nutshell, folks, Nixon took the United States off gold because the US government was inflating the currency to pay for all of their wars. 1 ounce of gold wouldn't have been worth 35 US dollars if the markets were actually allowed to take their course. So when the French and other countries started asking for their gold back, which the United States was holding on to for safekeeping, Nixon decided to close the gold window. And he disconnected the world's economy and its money from an actual commodity that kept government spending and inflation in check. So long story short, the United States almost went bankrupt in the late 80s and early 90s. But of course, the Federal Reserve was able to jack up interest rates and keep the party going right on up until the late 2000s. And since then, it's been one deflated bubble after another. The one we're experiencing now could be the last. There are no other bubbles to inflate here, and interest rates really can't go any lower, unless you count negative interest rates. But even the notion of negative interest rates just goes to show how far gone we are from anything resembling economic science. Economics is now a pseudo-intellectual discipline to justify the insane actions of governments and central banks, including selling off half of the nation's gold while we stumble into the worst financial crisis this country has ever seen. I mean, of all times to be selling off our gold, this may be the worst. Our economist Ian Lee here thinks that someday Canada's gold reserves are going to be a thing of the past. Well, no, I think it's more likely that someday Canada is going to be a thing of the past. Gold has been around for thousands of years. It's really only in the last 40 years that governments and banks have believed that they could just go without it. That a strong and prosperous economy doesn't need a money of actual value. All it needs is more paper. So yeah, Canada's gold reserves may be a thing of the past, but I imagine in the coming years, Canadians are going to be buying up a lot of gold like it's going out of style. Which, of course, for the Canadian government, it is. Check the description for all the sources to this video, and also check out our Patreon page where you can pledge a monthly amount to support real independent media. And you can also join us as a member right here at PFT. So thanks for watching, guys. Keep fighting the good fight. And as always, my friends, press for truth.